they just can't afford it because they still don't have the full depth, Zach. They don't. I see some questions in here. I think Brooks had earlier. Does 4 and 120 get Framber?
I don't think so.
Maybe before it did, but certainly I don't think it does now. He's going to want more. And if I'm Framber, you could say you have questions about it, but how badly do you want to win? Ball's in his court. Now, the biggest name trademark that we're going to look at that's still available, because here's the part then, Zach. Let's jump in. That was the headliner of this. What's next, right? This is what's happened. What's next? The options are, do you go and get Framber Valdez? That's one. Do you take a low risk, high reward, but you don't necessarily check the box off of a frontline starter? You could get a Zach Gallen. You could get one of those guys that could push the needle, but could be this year's Nick Pivetta that surprises out of nowhere and has great value. Nick Pivetta, by the way, was one of the top pitchers in the National League last year. So before everyone's like, oh, brother, this guy stinks. No. Pivetta balled last year.
Shout out Kevin.
Shout out Kevin.
True identifier of talent.
True identifier. So there's that, Zach. So of those options, it still feels like Framber is the most for sure, but I wouldn't sleep on Gallen. But that's still the same investment of if it's a short-term deal with Gallen, because that's what I think he'd look for. I don't think he wants to buy himself low. I think he wants to prove himself, right?
I'd give Gallen 2 years. I'd give him 2 years, 50 to 6. Yeah, probably 50 million. 2 years, 50 million. But Ryan, I'll say this about the benefit of the quote unquote what's next discussion is, we can talk about how nice it would be to have a 1 through 3 of Bradish, a Framber, Gallen, and then Rogers. But I think what people are also not fully taking into account is, holy crap, does that make Shane Baz this weapon, this potential factor? Because we know the potential of Shane Baz. Yeah, he's coming off injury, but man, everyone said about Trevor Rogers, oh, but that was 3 years ago where he was young and had that potential. He's had surgery since. Yeah, he's still coming back. Could you imagine if you have you have a solid 1 through 3, but then Shane Baz takes that next step, he gets back to what he was. Now suddenly you're talking about a 1 through 4 that can go up with anyone if everyone is, sitting around what that we know they can do. I just think it takes so much pressure off of the back end of the rotation. It takes pressure off of the guys like Kramer, like Baz, like Eflin. Suddenly, Eflin, it's not, hey, if your back's not doing well, we still need you to pitch because you're a part of the 5-man rotation now. It's, hey, we need everyone to be healthy. There's no pressure of someone has to take that massive step because we have those consistent factors. If you go out there and you would have gotten a Ranger, now let's put Gallen in there because I'm not sure about Framber. I know everyone wants him, but I don't know if that's going to happen in Baltimore. I just feel like that opens up, it takes the pressure off so many guys. It's like what we talked about last year in the bullpen, where it's like, hey, if you know your role, you're a 7th inning guy, that helps tremendously. It takes the pressure off of you because hey, I just need to get 3 outs and I'm handing the ball to Felix. If all of a sudden Felix is gone, the year before when they're competing and Craig Kimbrell's in there, and now suddenly it's Danny Coulombe is trying to get some saves. It's just everyone is trying to get, having to step up into roles and having to not just expected to, hey, take that step. They need to for it to be competitive. I think it just takes off so much pressure if you add another guy, because then it allows the other guys to freely take that step.
And no doubt about it, Zach, and not where, in the minors, because people are going to say, well, what about other guys if in the minors that could be options? Here's the thing is they could be options, but last year when you saw in limited time for guys, it was, and also pitching in the bigs and trying to find your footing when the team is stinking it up. It's really hard to find yourself when there's a negative vibe or you just know things aren't great. You're not hitting your expectations. That's a very hard place to be. But the other part with this, Zach, is players that are trying to break through. That is the ultimate unknown. And then you might have guys like you saw last year with the Blue Jays. You have a Savage come up just and freaking deal, but that shouldn't be the expected result. He was ready and he balled out, and that was a pleasant surprise for Toronto. Baltimore, any team, you can't think like that. And you're right. Zach Eflin, I think, will be valuable, no doubt. But Zach Eflin, to me, also, why he got hurt more was his his resiliency to say, I got to go out there and try. And I give him a lot of freaking credit, man, because he was hurt from the start. He came back too early. He tried to battle through, and whammy, it hurt him. And he got fixed. But don't have that be where he has to be a hero and a savior. That's why when we're looking at these options, and Shane Baz, like, I mean this, and watching him and dissecting him, the dude has top 2 potential. He does. But potential doesn't make you feel good about 2026. And I recognize that, and I understand Birdland and everyone what you're thinking. So here's the case. If we just said, here's the free agents opportunities, what about the trade opportunities? In this case right now, you're looking at a few names that I'll throw out. Mackenzie Gore, Freddie Peralta, and can you convince the Twins to trade one of Joe Ryan or Pablo Lopez? That's where people are going to go. Yeah. Can you get one of those guys? And Zach, the answer of all of those, the most expensive will probably be Joe Ryan. Right now would probably be Joe Ryan. Freddie Peralta and Pablo Lopez, I think Freddie being on a rental technically would have maybe a little bit less value than Pablo, but Freddie, if you were going to say top pitcher on the market right now, Freddie Peralta's name, he would probably command the highest amount. So to me, Freddie, Joe, and Pablo are more proven than Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore to me is similar to the Shane Baz. Give up a lot, team control, electric stuff, but an unknown consistency result right now. So Zach, I mean, I know people want to see this Joe Ryan trade happen. I just don't see an option there. I don't, because I don't even know if you would be able to give up enough. If you gave up whatever you did to the Rays, you might be giving up the whole farm, like literally the entire farm to get Joe Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about just pure ace stuff of the group, it's like you said, it's Freddie Peralta. I get he's on a 1-year deal. I get that you're going to need to, go through the extension stuff, all of that. But if we're talking about the Orioles are going for it in 2026, the guy you call is the Brewers with Freddie Peralta. Simple as that. He's the guy. He's the guy who I think has the best stuff. I'll even go as far as when we talk about potential, what he's at right now is what you're hoping Mackenzie Gore gets to, what you're hoping Joe Ryan takes that step to. And Freddie Peralta, this is not just a guy where it's like, he's gotten better each year. Little down in 2024, but, only a 3.68 ERA. A tough 2023, a 3.86 ERA, over 165 innings. Comes out last year, 2.7 ERA, 17 wins, 6 losses. Pitched in 33 games, 176 innings, 204 strikeouts. I think he's everything you would want. And if you are willing to go and get it done, that's the guy you need to go. If you are desperate and you're saying, hey, it's time to go make a difference, somebody that you're going to hand the ball to on, I think it's like March 27th, March 28th, whatever opening day is. If you get Freddie Peralta, I still think you probably that is the biggest game changer. So
yeah. I mean, no doubt about it. Like, but here's the thing, Zach. If you trade for Freddie Peralta, unlike last time when you traded for a Brewers pitcher, hey, you know what? Hey, Freddie, we're glad to have you. And here's a new here's this pen. You see this pen? I don't have a pen on me. Here, you're going to sign this contract for an extension. Write me out. Like we're doing this. It's over. It's done. Because if you do that and you make that move, you need to make sure that he's a part of your plans moving forward. You have to. You absolutely have to with the amount of guys. And I tell you what, you're right. If we were looking at all those options that were available, Freddie Peralta would give the Orioles that added juice. Now, the Orioles' name wasn't connected to Freddie, at least at this moment, but who gives a shit? Like, the reports out of this is how quickly things can change in baseball, because the Orioles, I agree, and I do believe, I believe, Zach, Ranger Suarez and the Orioles, there was a lot of conversations. The Orioles were having these conversations. But guess what? Boston might have not had the conversation because they had their eyes elsewhere. And in an instant, they lose Bregman. They're getting criticized. They go, we're going to pivot. We don't like any of the other bats that are out there. Whammy, let's go get one of the top pitchers. No ands, ifs, or buts. And they did it. This is how quickly the market can move. So don't sleep on if you don't hear any connections. Did you hear any connections that the Orioles were trading for Shane Baz? Hell no. Hell no. But that is something that I'm looking to watch. That is going to be the next thing. And honestly, the whole baseball world is going to see, where does Framber Valdez go? But who is actually going to land Framber and another pitcher? Another pitcher is getting moved, Zach, in this process. I just would be shocked. I feel that that's going to happen. Whether that's the Baltimore or somewhere else, you feel that momentum. You feel like that's going to be it. So, and in the meantime, we'll find out about two other big free agents, Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette. If Tucker goes to the Jays, Bo Bichette's probably not going there. He's probably going to go to Philly or one of those other squads. If Kyle Tucker takes the big money from the Mets or the Dodgers on a shorter deal but higher AAV, average annual value, Zach, say it with me.
Average annual value.
There it is. Then he could go elsewhere and say, screw it, I'll cash back in. If I'm Tucker, I want to get the bag now. I don't want to think about that later. That's just me. So then that we'll see what happens right there, Zach. But baseball, you guys were worried that deals were done with. Well, deals are getting done, just might not be the ones that you were hoping for. But if you are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We're doing this live every time from 3 to 5, Monday through Friday. Sorry, I'm a little frazzled. I'm still pissed. I blame Jared Carrabis for this. I do.
This is definitely his fault.